Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Wellness Mandala is back with a new chapter of this series of webinars on Your Body Hears Everything Your Mind Says. I am Prachi and I shall be with you throughout the session to make this meaningful program as engaging as possible. Before we get started for today's webinar, I must summarize our previous two from this series. Out of our 9 natural laws of wellness, our first session was on air, where we not only learned the importance of nose breathing, but our emphasis on how emotions impact our breathing and vice versa of breathing impacting our emotions. Our biggest medium to detox is from our body is air. Our second session was that on sunlight, where we learned the importance of vitamin D, the types of UV rays, and the benefits of sunshine. We spoke about how it helps to deal with stress, depression, blood pressure, diabetes, sleep issues, and also helps better functioning of our brain and growth in children. We recommended a 20 minutes of a morning sun as a takeaway from that session. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to you with a very vast and relevant topic, water and nutrients. These natural laws of wellness are so common and readily available, yet we are unaware of its benefits and usage. Hoping today's session will enlighten you all. You can keep posting your queries in the Q&A options that are available in the tools below. Our experts shall keep answering you on the go. We intend to keep time slotted for answering your questions at the end of our session. So you can keep a few noted as well. Keeping today's topic in mind, I already have a question of what is healthy? Absence of diseases or presence of a defense mechanism? To answer all such questions and to share with us researched findings, may I please request Mr. Rakesh Sareen, Managing Director for Wellness Mandala, to please join us. Welcome, Aris. Kindly unmute, Aris. Aris, I request you to unmute and answer.
Yes.
To begin with, one question that I have already posted to you, but I'm sure there are many more coming.
But very good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. It's a great topic and a great question what Prachi asked. As it looked to me is that our life is extremely precious, not only to ourselves, but also the people who love us and like us. And therefore, it's not the matter of how good am I today, but how would I be tomorrow? What is my defense mechanism? And the topic of today, very much aligns, around this question that how am I keeping myself well on a sustainable basis? So if I move to the subject, there is a common understanding that genes play a very important role in our well-being. And let's take one of the most dreaded disease called cancer. Now, the research shows that the gene's contribution in this aspect is maybe 5 to 10%, but 90 to 95% contribution is assigned to the environment where we are, what we create around us. And when we look at environment, over 1/3 of that relates to diet. Now, we say that the tobacco is 25 to 30%, infections 15 to 20%, obesity again linked to the diet again, you know. So diet plays a very important role in terms of how well would we be tomorrow. With this, I would say that water is the nutrient of the nutrients. And before we dwell into this very simple subject, but often simple things are very complicated, I would request Prachi that if we can have a poll on a two-part questions before I proceed further.
That will be a great idea. And if I may request to just quickly have the polling rights to me as well.
Yes, sure. So I'm stopping the sharing and so you can go for the poll.
Yeah, just allow me one. Aris, while I ask the poll question in a while, can we move to our next topic?
Oh, sure, we can. I think this morning we're having some little bit of glitches on the technology front, but let me share the screen again. And so let's move on this subject of water being nutrient of the nutrients. And let me share this this very interesting clip, which happened just a few days back. And once I show it, you will see what's happened. So look at what Ronaldo the Great doing to Coke.
Wow.
Coca-Cola. Boa tarde a todos. Queria dar as boas-vindas à conferência de imprensa da antevisão do Portugal.
Now the question would come to mind that why a person like Ronaldo, who's the fitness epitome, would say cheers to water. And we will find answer to that as we move on. You already know, but still we'll dwell a little bit more in detail.
Oh my God. So yes, I think RS quite a trending video, and yes, looks like he said everything else out of the frame, but just kept water and himself there to cheers his beginning of the press conference that he's at. So yes, I think action speaks louder than words is what he demonstrated. We definitely want to hear more on that, but now I think we want to hear from our audience also on the poll, through a poll that I want to launch with them.
Okay.
And I would just quickly take a quick view from all our audience of how they take water as on a daily basis. So we've seen Ronaldo behaving in a certain way, but tell us, dear guests, everybody present in our audience, how many glasses of water do you take in a day? So in front of you, you have a poll and you could do a quick click of buttons. Is it less than 4 glasses? Is it 5 to 6 glasses? Is it 7 to 8 glasses? Or is it more than 8 glasses? We want to hear from you. Also, we want to know, do you take water within 30 minutes of your meals? Be honest, only you know your answers best. But is it always, is it sometimes, or is it never? So I keep my poll on for the next 10 seconds before I close it. So please quickly give in your answers. And of course, then answers necessarily need to be shared with RS for giving us his viewpoint on this.
Sure.
I the poll. And RS, I must share the results with you.
Great.
So 41% of people say 7 to 8 glasses. Less than 4 glasses is 5% people, and I must confess, maybe I'm also actually in that 5%. And to our water intake after meals, almost 50% are saying never. And sometimes is where, of course, our next category lies, and please guide me as well. I also sometimes do consume water after meals. So I stop my share and over to you, RS.
Interesting to watch this, the poll, and going on. So it's a good. Can I remove this? Yes. So let's look at the subject of water. We are 60 to 65% water, and our brain, by the way, is 80% water. And so we are more than half water. Our gray matter is almost water, 80%. That's what brings us creativity. That's what brings us flexibility. That's what brings us joy. And imagine that if we disturb this balance, what all can happen. So when we are dehydrated, what is it, the gift we get out of that? Headaches, confusion, irritation. If we are in a creative job, our creativity always gets marred, when we are dehydrated. Our system always gives us an indication. We urinate less, and the color of the urine, it's important to watch that because it turns dark. So our system gives us an indication. Bad breath, dry mouth, fatigue, even cramps and nausea and palpitation. Why? Because our blood is 90%, 92% water. And when the water quantum decreases, what happens? Our blood gets thicker and heart has to work more. Heart has to work more and with more pressure. And that's what happens, it leads to palpitation. Joint pain and asthma. On asthma, I like to say that, brain is supremo, and when we are dehydrated, there is a substance called histamine, which is released, which regulates the water. So what it does is that it cuts the supply of water to our other organs, like lungs, like joints, like all other system, and diverts this water to brain. And at times, when we take these pumps in good old days, it would have antihistamine, which again impairs water to the brain. And in nutshell, we get messed up absolutely. And the root cause of it is just lack of water. Now, this is well researched, well documented, and if you want, you can do your own research around this. So water has numerous benefits, and these are the bullets which are listed in front of us. But I will just pick up one or two bullets over here. The first one, for example, our stomach is highly acidic. It is the pH which measures the acidity of 1.2 to 3.5. Now, to protect our stomach lining from this acidic fluid, what is there in our stomach for digesting food, there is mucus, and the mucus again is built out of water. So when we are dehydrated, again, that gets impaired, and that leads to so many other complications. Someone may ask, what has weight management to do with water? Yes, it has a lot to do with that, and you may like to explore. What has blood pressure has to do with water? Yes, it has a lot to do with that. So simple thing, keep ourselves hydrated. And what we need to do is that depending on our body weight, if someone is very light, say starting with 2.5 liters a day, and if someone is a heavyweight, 4 liters a day, we need to drink water. As simple as that. Water is available all around us. But if you look at the poll results, you would find that almost 1/3 of us are at critical level of water intake. Now, this is a matter of habit, but it's a high time where we look at this habit. Also, some people think that I've drunk 1 liter or 2 liters of water in the morning, so I'm good for the day. By the way, for your information, our body absorbs only 120 milliliters of water in 30 minutes. And whatever is the excess, often it gets passed on, from the system. So drinking large quantity of water at one go is not the solution. The solution is that we keep drinking water intermittently, in a period of 30, 45 minutes, 1 hour. So have it at a regular interval. Other aspect is that the thirst call is only when we are at the 2/3 level of the ideal need of water. So we need to educate and we need to, imbibe habit for ourselves so that, we take water on a regular basis, not just gulping once, or twice or thrice during the day. That doesn't suffice. And the water should not be taken 30 minutes before lunch and dinner and 1 hour post, because our gastric juices, the digestive juices get diluted with that. So the answer is very simple. The natural laws of wellness related to water says, keep drinking intermittently. ये सबसे simple चीज है. Only the thing is कि हमारे को इसकी आदत डालनी. And it is best to drink water at room temperature or lukewarm. The water gets absorbed in our system only when it is at a body temperature. If it is too cold, the body heats it up, uses the energy to heat up, and then starts absorbing it. Simple. So let's come to the next topic, which is make food your best medicine. Our system, our 5,000 years of rich heritage is saying this with a very loud tone, that food is your best friend and it's your best medicine. Use it wisely. So we will discuss these 4 points, and I would be extremely happy and delighted if we can, take away certain aspects regarding why and how to alkalize our system. Why is alkalinity so important? What good food combinations are? What are bad food combinations? What are the meal timings, digestion and detoxifications? And a humongously researched subject on microbiome, our brain and gut health. So before I proceed on this, I would request Prachi, if you can take a poll on some simple questions around this.
Sure, absolutely, Aris. I think you take polls from us, you take our opinions, and then you throw some facts and figures which totally sweep us off the floor. So yes, understanding what facts you did for water, great. And I think the polls really help. So I would request everyone to give in their opinions because looks like most of these topics that we are putting in our polls are being addressed. So yes, launching our poll, and people, please, everyone, tell us, do you snack in between the meals? Always, sometimes, or never? Again, something that is part of our habit, but what is the best practice is something that we will soon get to know. Do you add fruits like pineapple, grapes, pomegranate to your salads? Let us know. And do you include plant-based food in your diet? So what is your general tendency? Is it often, sometimes, or rarely? So we would want to hear your opinions in the next 10 seconds. I'm going to keep it on before we showcase what we have received from your end. And also, I request everyone to keep whatever questions are coming to your mind. Please put in them in the question and answer tool that you have, so that we can address to all your queries and nothing stays unanswered. We want all of you to learn as much as you can. We have a team of experts. Aris is addressing us. We have with us Apurva, Ruchika, Dr. Shakti, all of us, our team of coaches from Wellness Mandala, who are continuously answering your queries. So, and I am stopping the poll. Aris, here are the results.
Yes, I can see that. Great. Interesting.
So yes, 73% people do say that they do snack in between their meals. Fruits, about 50% of people are saying sometimes, well, the remaining, almost I would say 50%, 42% are saying never. Do we include plant-based food diet, food to our diet? Often. So over to you, Aris.
Great. So I'll share my slides again, and you will see the relevance of these questions as we move on with the session. So this is what Dr. Warburg got a Nobel Prize way back in 1930s. And he says that no disease, including cancer, can exist in an alkaline environment. Now, a lot of research has naturally happened, on this subject. And my question to you is that, are you aware of what is the pH which measures the acidity or alkalinity in our system of your body? You may say yes or no on the chat box. We are very informed society today. We have so much of knowledge around our profession and around the world affairs. But this also is a very important information, which we need to keep a tab on. Once it comes to the question of how well would I be tomorrow? So that's what, it indicates. 1 to 7 is the acidic area, and 7 to 14 is the alkalinity area. And the ideal is, say, between 7.7 to 7.5. And below 7 is what we say it is a disease zone, meaning we are more prone to diseases in that zone. And what contributes to that? What are acidic foods? It's listed here. You also see the drink, which we just now witnessed, a short video, and where the pH is 2.3, highly acidic because of some acids like phosphoric acids. And when it is acidic, what happens? We leach out. Acids want basic chemicals like calcium. So it leaches out, calcium from our bones, and which leads to osteoporosis. But at the same time, life is a balance. How to balance that? Here are healthy fruits and vegetables, the plant-based diet, which helps in gaining, alkalinity into our system, preparing us to sustain our wellness in a longer run. Mm-hmm. So how to alkalize is an important question. One of the best alkalizer, one can take is a lemon shot in the morning itself. It's one of the best blood cleanser. It is cleans our digestive tract. It reduces hypertension, helps in arthritis, burns fat, and of course, it is what is leading to alkaline effect in our system. One caution, for example, I take a lemon shot in the morning, but use a straw, what you see in this bottle. Otherwise, our teeth enamel gets burnt out. Apart from lemon, there are so many other good things. What we can do to our system is like wheatgrass is full of antioxidants. The great thing to have. Beetroot. Now, beetroot, juice if we take and if we gulp it, we reduce the impact of beetroot. Beetroot has to be taken very slowly, swirling in the mouth like wine. Because our saliva has certain enzymes which enhances the effectiveness of beetroot, which we take, and it produces nitric oxide in our system. Again, very good cardiovascular tonic for us and very good immunity booster for us. Amla, veggie juices, etc. are the super supplements. So this is what is a kingdom of plant-based food, which help us to sustain wellness. And the proportion, what you see in these squares, is the proportion that we need to take. Also, there are pulses, there are legumes, and once we take sprouts are the living food, and that multiplies the effectiveness, the nutrient value of the sprouts, the legumes, many, many times. So it's not just a question of how much is the nutrient in the food, but how much of that nutrient we can absorb in our system. And sprouting is a very good way. Even taking the nuts, by soaking in the night is a great way to consume those nuts. This is just a picture, I'm not saying donut is bad. Of course, we need to have it once in a while, but just compare a donut and a carrot where you can see that how the right from amino acids to enzymes and water is the proportion out here. So question is that can we make better preparations for carrot, more tastier, and give it to our children and our parents and eat ourselves? Now, this is a research which I want to share with you. There are a lot of stuff around it, but I'm just picking one veggie out here. So lycopene is a substance in tomato which has been proven to help in tumors and cancers like breast and colon. It shows in a very large study of covering 47,000 people, consuming 2 or more servings of tomato sauce per week has shown reduction of prostate cancer by 30%. By the way, how we make our food is also very important. So if we take a tomato and we smear it for below 190 degrees centigrade for 2 minutes, the lycopene content, the active substance content in the tomato, goes up by 50%. And if we do it for 30 minutes, it goes up by 250%. So जो हमारे घर में जो हम लोग टमाटर की चटनी बनाते हैं is a great thing, to have on a daily basis, or at least once, twice, or thrice in a week. This shows that in diabetes, the stem cells, and stem cells are the cells which help us to construct our body, our hairs, our nails, our bones, our skin. And that our body is almost renewed 95% in 1 year time frame. Our skin is renewed in 30 days time, less than 30 days time. So these are the stem cells from a bone marrow, which help us to regenerate. Now in diabetes, it comes down, as you are seeing in this simple chart. Also, as we age, the stem cells come down. Now guess what? When we take omega-3, the production of stem cells goes up by almost 3 times. And that's what is shown in our blood sample. Where do we get the omega-3? From the nuts like chia, sunflower, So all these kind of nuts, and one can research more about it. It helps us regenerate our body and regenerate our blood cells, in a healthier manner through natural means. So these are some of the foods, which helps in enhancing, like dark chocolate, which is listed out here, mango. So they are pretty tasty stuff. Also, this is one, kiwi fruit. I thought I'll share with you. I'll show one slide on the gut biome and how important it is for us. But the research recently done in Singapore, it shows that by taking kiwi for 4 days, which is a prebiotic food, it enhances the release of lactobacillus in our guts, by 35%. And then another kind of bacteria. What does it do? It helps us in anti-inflammation, in our fat metabolism, in our cholesterol metabolism, in energy generation, in strengthening the gut mucus layer, So this kind of knowledge and information is important for us to see that what all are good foods. And I would highly recommend that there is a book by Dr. William, Eat to Beat Diseases. It's one of the bestseller on the New York, so.
Thank you for sharing that, Aris. Maybe we would want to go by your recommendation on the book if that gives us relevant knowledge on our daily consumption.
Yes, it is indeed giving some extremely important information, which we can imbibe in our daily life.
Good. Thank you.
And we can share the reference of this in our chat box. Then, let me share this very simple slide that often, I've seen that when we make salad in our homes, or we go to a fine dining restaurant, normally we'll have pomegranates and the grapes and watermelon and all thrown into our salad. Now, this is not a good practice. I tell you why. The answer to this is that our stomach digests fruits much, much faster than the raw vegetables and salad. The raw vegetable salads take something like 3.5 to 4 hours, whereas the fruits take hardly less than 1 hour. So while fruits are ready to be released in the intestine, they have to wait for the vegetables to digest. For example, when we are chewing, we take a morsel, and unless until it is fully taken care, and we put another one, before gulping it in, what will we do? We will keep on chewing till the time the second morsel is also fully masticated. Uske baad mein, then we take it in. Likewise, the same thing happens in our stomach. And during this waiting period of 2-3 hours, what happens that the precious carbohydrates from the fruits, they get converted into undesirable fatty acids. So instead of doing good to us, it even spoils the salad what we eat. So a very important aspect I want to share out here is that the liver in our body is a marvelous refiner or detoxifier, what we may say. So it digests the food and also it detoxifies. The lacuna is that it can either digest or it can detox. So if we are taking late dinner and we sleep, so the whole night the food is getting digested. And by the time the liver has to detox, the time is over. And because our body revs up and it starts producing various hormones and all. And then, we do not give enough time for our detoxification. So you would have also heard of intermittent fasting. It is becoming, very popular these days. That's a good thing to do. And there's a very effective communication and a book by Dr. Jason Fong, and I'll recommend that to you people, to have a look at that and listen to him. And I'll ask my colleagues to, put the reference in our chat box. So coming towards the end, the microbiome and gut, a lot of stuff is being talked about it. There's a lot of media, which is covering it. The gut flora, you may be aware, that has over 40 trillion bacteria, which are crucial to our well-being. By the way, do you know that the total number of cells which we have in our body? They are 35 to 40 trillion. So we are half of our body in terms of numbers is nothing but gut flora, these bacteria. We also have a very important role of pre and probiotics, which play a role in our well-being. And in our Q&A session, I would ask my colleague Apurva to talk a little bit more about it. And these pre and probiotics are very important, especially when we take antibiotic, and antibiotic means anti of biome, meaning it kills our gut flora. It wipes out, like erythromycin, will wipe out the whole colony of gut biome. Now, there are certain foods which are so very important, to rebuild that. And anar is one of them. And in fact, there is one very important bacteria called Akkermansia, which cannot be generated in the body once it is destroyed. But this wonder fruit, can help in regenerating that. We produce 95% serotonin, which is a happy chemical in the gut. We produce 50% of dopamine, in the gut, and dopamine is a hormone, which neurotransmitter, which help us to do more, which helps us, take initiatives, which energizes us, that helps us to take challenges and achieve them. And serotonin is so important for our emotional well-being. So our gut plays an extremely important role on our emotional well-being. And these are, here, the gut biome, these bacteria plays a very important role in production of these serotonin and dopamine. And also, our gut is responsible for over 80% of our immune system. So with this, I would like to hand over to Prachi back again.
Thank you so much, RS. Those were very, very informative, and some of the very, I would say them, fun facts which we never knew of. Basis the food, the fruits, the vegetables, kiwi, anar, and lemon. So yes, I think very, very small tips which are something that we can imbibe in our daily lives. And thank you for sharing these information with us. And your recommended books is something that we would want to go to. And yes, post which I think I definitely would want to invite. We have Ms. Shivi Sabrawal with us, and she's our director at Wellness Mandala. We would want to know from her as to how does Wellness Mandala team and the tech tool help us compute the various components of all these intakes. You did mention a couple of terminologies which we have in that much quantum in our body, but we are unaware of it, and how can one compute and do something about it? Over to you, Shivi.
Hi, Prachi. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone who's joined us today. Thank you so much for showing interest in our webinars and your health, most importantly. RS, wow, what a fantastic session. You have brought to light such interesting facts about such a basic thing, which is water. We all need water in our diet, but to what level? What's the optimum level of having water? How much water do we need? Such critical information, even about nutrition. And you've given us such simple hacks, tomato ki chutney. We Indians like to cook our tomatoes, but now we know why are we cooking those tomatoes, on fire for that long. So, extremely important point of views here, I think. Also, I think a lot of us include our greens, vegetables, and fruits in our diet. But I think after this session, we will be way more mindful as to how we are consuming. What are, the food groups that one need to follow? Me, for example, I used to include fruits in my salads. It's going to be a big no-no from now on. In fact, I have already started thinking about what are the different nutritional diets that I'm going to start giving my kids. These are such formative years for our children. So imagine if we have this plethora of information, this golden information with us, the kind of changes that we can bring about in the nutritional value of our kids at this stage are going to be so important for them when they grow up, for a more sustainable lifestyle and a more sustainable health. Now, I would like to emphasize that all this knowledge that we are sharing today is all backed up with a lot of research work that has been done before, and also by our able coaches. And we have seen a very direct correlation of dehydration and lack of nutrition on an individual's health. And I'm not just talking about their physical health, how their gut health is performing, but also on their emotional health. Also, if I can just quickly take you through, to the people who have joined us new today, the kind of assessment that Wellness Mandala provides. Aris, if you could just pull up that slide, please. So what we do is we basically have formed these 5 pillars of wellness. These are self-care capital, joy capital, you see on the screen. Now, self-care capital is where we cover all these 9 laws of wellness. You know, we've been doing these webinars so that we can tell people the importance of imbibing these healthy practices in your daily routine. You know, air, water, sunlight, such important things. And we do a very thorough assessment of all these 9 capitals. The next we do is Joy Capital Assessment. We have designed a very unique psychometric tool, which is especially for Indian sensibilities. Then we also assess fitness capital of individuals, which is done, you know, through a goniometer. We also record their BMIs and everything. Then we also do a hemocapital assessment, which is through a conventional blood examination. But today I want to lay emphasis on the vital capital assessment that we perform. Now, vital capital is done through a very powerful medical device that we have, which works on interstitial fluid. And it can actually tell us how your vital organs are performing currently, but not just there. It also can give you a prognostic of future health problems that an individual might face. Now, this could be thyroid, this could be diabetes, and so on. But we get a very clear view of what is happening inside your body. Aris has, you know, talked about such important things such as pH level, you know, how acidic your body is, you know, what food can do to you and harm that it can do to you also. So all these aspects, we get a very clear view of these when we perform this vital capital assessment. Also would like to highlight that there are 30 more parameters that the vital capital assessment covers, which are not covered under blood analysis. So what I would request, Dr. Shakti is with us. Dr. Shakti is our able holistic wellness coach. She's also an expert on reading our medical report. If you can just pull up the medical assessment report, Shakti, and if you can just broadly touch upon the 3 sections that we cover, you know, where serotonin, dopamine, all these important aspects are measured. And then Shakti has these, and the other coaches have this important information in front of them, the kind of planning that they do in terms of providing, you know, nutrition and diet advice to individuals is extremely holistic and very sustainable. So over to you, Shakti.
Yeah, so thank you, Shivi. And we have gone through the RS session, and there we listened about gut flora, serotonin, dopamine. So you must be thinking like, how can we manage about serotonin, dopamine? How can we measure it? Is it possible? So yes, it is possible. And it is through a vital capital. We never go for these tests. It is very rarely that some of us may be going for these tests. But through this vital capital, non-invasively, we are not going to take your blood. We are not going to do as such, only it is a protective test. So here you can measure the dopamine levels, the serotonin levels, the microcirculation, the immune response as well. What Aris told us about the gut flora, as he mentioned it, 80% of our immune system is in gut. So how important it is for us. So this can be measured through this vital capital test. It is an amazing test, and we here in WellM analyze this test. We see every parameter very nicely. We analyze it very crucially, and then we make a customized diet plans. We make an advisory individually for every person. So I hope, Shivi, it's very interesting vital capital test, and it tells us what we are not able to know from a blood picture and non-invasively.
Thank you, Shakti. Over to you, Prachi.
Thank you so much, Shivi. Thank you so much, Dr. Shakti, for taking us through as to how does Wellness Mandala as a team and its tools help us analyze these through non-invasive ways. Hats off to your technology and the analysis and the research that your team has done. So very importantly, I think we want to now move on to our question answer session. We've been receiving lots of questions throughout while Aris was talking and while you've given your information on WellM. So I'll be taking a few of them, and rest I believe we've been answering on the go as well. So to begin with, I think I have a question from Mr. R.P. Verma, And I think it's a mix of water and food base, so and some terminologies which people want clarity on. So please, all of us, please answer to these questions. So Dr. R.P. Verma says, how much time gaps to be kept between serving of raw fruits, raw vegetables? Just a second.
Dals and cooked meats.
Yeah, the question just got answered, so it got off my screen actually, I believe.
But I think I get a sense of the question.
Yeah, it's basically the gaps between the different portions he's asking.
So we can have the raw fruits and and salad along with the cooked vegetables. So they go hand in hand. But the raw fruits, raw vegetables do not go with fruits. That's where the combination goes in a negative direction.
Yeah, Aris, let me just complete the question. So for full clarity, how much time gaps to be kept between serving raw fruits, raw vegetables, and normal meals which are consistently cooked, and for better health benefits?
So that's what I'm trying to say, that you can mix fruits and cooked vegetables. Likewise, you can mix salad and cooked vegetables, because the time gap between these two for digestion is not too much different. The gap could be maybe about an hour or so. So they go hand in hand. But the two extremes, they don't go hand in hand, like the raw vegetables and salad and the fruits.
All right. Another question that I have is that, can we use market ketchup products, or should it be a homemade one?
So something is better than nothing. So if you don't have the homemade one, market ketchup is good. But remember, market ketchup has a date, expiry date. It has chemicals, preservatives. So lot better, सस्ता सुंदर टिकाऊ घर में टमाटर की चटनी बना के हमको उसको अच्छे से गर्म करके खाना चाहिए.
Okay, great. I think another good and a basic question, but of what is pH? So we spoke a lot about it. Can we please elaborate on it so that we understand the concept better?
So Dr. Ruchika, would you like to talk? And also maybe it's a good idea, you can say, how do we measure that at home itself? Dr. Ruchika?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So yes, so pH is basically the acid and the base balance of the body. It is a mechanism by which your body, habituate in between the acidic medium and the basic medium. So when we already have shown a slide in which it is shown a scale where the 7 to 8 pH has been told to be into a healthy state of the body. And below the 6 pH, we come into the acidic stage where our diseases and our acidity levels go up higher in the body. It includes all the HCl levels and everything in the body. So how we can measure it? So there are something called pH strips, which are easily available in the market, and you can also find it in Amazon, and you can get the strips out of it. You can take your urine sample and you can dip the strips into it, and the color will provide you a guidance along with what is your pH. So if it is in the green side, the paper will be yellowish color. So if the paper turns into the green, so it means that you are into the healthy state of the body. The pH is base, which is the basic in nature, which counts into the 6 to 8 level of the pH. And if it is acidic, it will turn into orange, it will turn into red, dark red, according to the levels which we have given. So 6 to, 4 is about orangish color, and below that, from 4 to 1 or 0, it will start decreasing, and the color of the, strip paper will be red and all.
Okay. And if the alkalinity goes higher than 8, what happens?
Basically, it is the highest pH. People will never attain that much high level of, pH in the body because you are a human being. So you maintain between 7 to 9 max or 8, not above that. It will be dark greener and it will not be very much effective on the color side of it. So it will be green itself. Darker green or the shades of green will be, that's all.
Great, great. Thank you so much for that. And I'm taking my next question, which is from Riti. Riti Sabharwal is asking can we have mixed juices of vegetables and fruits? Because we were saying that somewhere the solid forms should not be taken together because the fruits get digested way faster than vegetables. But her question is that what if we mix, if you both are in the form of liquid, then is it consumable and healthy?
So you don't have to mix, as Aris already told in the slides, that you should not mix the fruits and vegetables together. There is a trend of smoothies and everything, but you should not mix the fruit juices and vegetables together. So once you're consuming a juice, let's take an example, you are taking a juice of watermelon. It has already 70 to 80% of the water content is already there in the watermelon. So you don't have to mix water in it to make it a diluted solution. But as compared, when you take some fruits like apple juice and which is more in fiber content, so you can mix little bit. You can when you are taking a vegetable fruit, the vegetable has very little quantity of water in there. Okay. So you should mix a little bit amount of water just to mix it up, because our mixes are not that high tech that it will juice up every vegetable and all sort, like when you're mixing spinach and all. So little bit quantity of water to just making a dilute solution is fine. Otherwise, you should not mix vegetables, fruits together.
Great. Thank you. And questions are pouring, so please be ready for more. We've got Anil Wadhwa has actually asked us if it is okay to have black tea after food. So though we've answered him through chat, but I think it's in the benefit of all other guests that we have, that we do have a tendency of black tea or green tea after food. What is your take on that?
But that's very good.
Yes, sir.
Still, if we keep a gap of half an hour, would be great.
Yes, once you are taking, black tea, basically we recommend to take some green tea or herbal decoctions rather than going, having a black tea directly after the meals, because those are the very acidic kinds of teas. So we recommend you take either a herbal decoctions or you take green tea rather than having a black tea. But you can have black tea as well, but make sure you have a gap of 30 to 40 minutes after a meal.
All right, great. Thank you. And a question on water. Is there something called too much water intake? Does too much water intake leads to water retention in our body? Again, Aris, you mentioned that excess of water moves out, but can it cause water retention? Because we as a layman, we understand salt and water both are both are in our body. So what does it cause any bad effects?
So too much of water still, anything in excess is bad. And that's why, we mentioned the numbers, quantity, depending on the weight. And even to get to, let's say, 8 glasses of water in a day is a good thing. But if our body is feeling thirsty and we have done a marathon or, some heavy physical activity, then of course one can take more water. But on a regular day, the numbers of glasses, what we had shown, are good enough. Let's say a person weighing 75 kgs and having 8 to 9 glasses of water or 10 glasses of water is good.
Okay, and what is this is coming from me, as to what is the proportion of salt? What has salt to do with water in our...
Salt is bad. Salt, of course, leads to so many complications. It impacts our gut biome, in a negative way. It helps in the retention of water in our system. at unwanted places. It can lead to swellings, unwanted swelling. And maybe Ruchika, you may like to add more to that.
Yes, sure, Aris. So there is a mechanism called Na-potassium mechanism in our body. So basically, when we drink water along with our salts, whatever we take in our diet, if we have a very spicy food in our diet, which have a lot of salt content, which have a lot of spices. So what it does, it start bloating. Whatever the amount water we take, it is not the effect of water we consume in a day. It doesn't cause bloating. It doesn't cause, but along with the water, whatever the spices, whatever the salt intake, if it is more than 6 mg per day, our salt intake. So what it does, it starts retaining in our body. Our body has a mechanism. It goes into the survival mode. We have to retain everything in the body. Either it is fat, either it is water. So if we are drinking very less amount of water, so let's take an example. If we are drinking 2 to 4 glasses of water, automatically body will go into the retention mode of the water. Whether you're taking salt, whether you're taking herbs, then that comes into secondary part. So you have to maintain a proper balance of your water intake in a day, just to maintain that bloating and Na-potassium mechanism. When your body is dehydrated, automatically you're going to start restoring the water in your, whatever the excess water you have in your body, just to maintain that pH levels in your body. So if you are having a proper hydrated state of water, it will never retain.
It will never retain. Okay,
yes.
Great. So I think the solution is water, and there's nothing called too much water. But yes, I think limited is, as per advice quantity, something that one can take. Great. Yes. And another question again on water itself, as to, is RO water healthy? Ritu Alag is asking us, because again, we've been using, every household uses RO water. So please address, what are your views on this, Aris?
So RO water is, of course, much better than taking the tap water with the quality of water we get in the tap in most of the places. But what it is, if it is not adjusted properly, there is a chance of sediments removal. So we miss out on the minerals which we get from the water. So getting proper tuning or servicing of the RO is important, that it is maintaining those minimal sedimentation in the water. Second thing is, the very process, it turns the water towards acidic side. And therefore, it would be a good practice to have a charcoal candle water filter like jug what we have. It is available in the market. So have at least few glasses of water from that jug. I do that regularly, at least, 1/3 of the water what I take is not from RO, but from the charcoal candle jug. That's a good practice. And that is an alkaline water. Otherwise, the alkaline filters also available in the market, but they're prohibitively expensive. So that's what's my short question to your answer.
Okay. All right. And these charcoal jugs are available or readily available in the market, Rahul? Okay. All right. Great. And I think I just have time for my last question, post which I think I'll quickly take a quick poll from our audience. So, and we'll come to a closure. But the question is that how many hours of intermittent fasting is useful? I think that is a most frequently asked question, but in benefit of all, I'm still unaware of it. So please, Ruchika, if you could help us tell about this.
My suggestion would be that it's a long topic. There are various parameters. So best way would be to go through the book by Dr. Jason Fung called The Fasting Lane. And it is available on Amazon. It is available on Audible. You can listen to it. But it is a must read book, I would suggest. If you love yourself, please go through that. And intermittent fasting is not just for obesity, but it is for all the lifestyle disorders, what we go through in our life. So if you have any issues, go through that. And intermittent fasting not only, helps in various aspects, also it kickstarts the stem cell generation in our body. So So go for that.
Aris, can you please repeat the name of the book again? Our audience is asking.
It's by Dr. Jason Fung. It's called Diabetes Lane, or On the Fasting, you know. So once you Google, you will find it. It's there on the Amazon, it's there on the Audible, but please go through that. I think that we are now at 1 o'clock.
Perfect. Yeah. So, and I would quickly take a poll from all our guests present here as to how they found our today's session. And for all your other questions, we can certainly, the team is available and you can always touch base and we can be in correspondence over emails. So, dear audience, here I launch our next poll, and please do address to this, whereby we want to understand from all of you, you've invested time with us. How did you find the session? Was it valuable? We also want to understand from you, are you interested to know more about our holistic wellness programs? And we essentially want to understand from you that would you want to recommend the next session, which is on Saturday, the 3rd of July, that we're going to come back with another topic from the 9 laws of wellness that we have. Would you want to recommend us and to your friends and family to help becoming better at their health? So quickly put in your answers in the poll, and in the next 5 seconds, I would be ending the poll. And Aris, I would request you to please bring the discussion to a closure.
Yes, so we would be back again, you know, next Saturday. And our topic there is rest, exercise, and healthy spaces. So how do we use rest, exercise, and healthy spaces, this very important trio, to sustain well-being? And I would say it's not just how good we are today, but how good we be tomorrow and day after tomorrow. And that is, you know, a very, very powerful synergy available to us from the natural laws of wellness. And so the first step is to understand that. And the second step is that how do we imbibe that in our life? In fact, we will close this series of webinars by discussing on how can we imbibe these 9 natural laws of wellness in our life in seamless manner, you know, without any efforts. We can really make them our friends and ensure our wellness for tomorrow. Thank you so much, Prachi.
Thank you so much, Aris. Thank you, the entire panel. And thank you all the lovely guests who have come, joined. Hope this was very informative and you've taken away your share of learnings. See you next time. 3rd July, we meet again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.